got our mock-up. Now we're good. We can either 3D print the model. You could also have the lab 3D print the mock-up for you if you don't have a 3D printer. That's okay. And then we're ready for prep. And we know how we're going to prep based on that mock-up. And what we're going to do that same day, I've pre-scheduled this. And so I've told the lab, hey, we're going to do this. And based on the number of units, it's going to be a 1 hour or maybe up to 2 hour if it's a double arch. But they're going to then convert everything here for me. Okay, so the way that works is I've got all my scans. I took, my photos. I already had my photos from before. I'm going to send them everything. And I'm basically saying, hey, we already did a design because I pre-scheduled this and you already did the mock-up. Let's now make temporaries. So instead of doing Bisacril, we're going to make temporaries. And the form is almost identical. Like literally it's like the same thing. I'm going to enter the patient information, but in this time I'm going to select, instead of a mock-up, I'm going to do a temporary restoration. I could even do final, but I'm going to go temporary restoration. I'm going to select that. And then from there, it's going to ask like, how are you submitting? I'm submitting this via their portal. Did we previously have an approved design? Yes, we always want that. And then in this case, it's going to be up to 10 teeth. So it's going to take about an hour. What I will tell you is that is like at the longest amount of time it would take. It's usually a lot faster than that. And then I'm going to tell them which teeth we're restoring. Now, what I love about this is how do you want them done? And I always say segmented, not individual. And then I want to give them guidance on how to segment. Never, never, never split them down to 8 and 9. Ever, ever, ever. It always looks dumb. I always say the front 4, the front 6, because those are the ones that if we want to make changes, we can just flip them out. We don't have to start over and do it again. So I like the front 4, front 6. And then all we have to do is we just submit it via the STL files and we send it to this lab. And then we just sit there, we drink a cup of coffee. We don't have to do anything. We just hang out. Okay. Now, one of the things that's amazing about this is they're then going to send you this file. And some of you are saying an hour, Tim, that is crazy too long. And I will agree, an hour is a lot of time, but it's all about the reward for what we get later. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later here today. But what I want to emphasize, the more units the moment you get to 6 units, it's really worth it for me to print in my office, because the result that we get from all of the things downstream, that's where the time and money savings becomes. Now, one workflow I love when I was starting off, because if things are going to screw up and your printer is going to fail and everything, it is going to be on the first time you're doing it, or the crazy pain patient and all that, I promise you. So eliminate the stress, you guys. Set your team up for success. Don't set them up to fail. And what I would recommend on your first case, I would prep the teeth. I'm going to have my mock-up already, and I'm going to make a putty index, and I'm going to do the old shrink wrap PVS temporary that you've always done. And I'm going to do that, and I'm going to kick the patient out the door, say, hey, dude, I'm going to see you tomorrow. I don't really care how the tissue, like I literally just lock it on, put it on, trim it up a little bit, get out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. And what happens is they're going to come in tomorrow. We're going to cut that thing off, bust it all off because it's in the undercuts everywhere. And the tissue is going to look gnarly, but I don't care, because between right now and tomorrow, I have calm time with the patient not in my chair to then fabricate these new prototypes. So when he comes in, or she, we can then flip it out, put the new ones in, and let them heal in that prototype. So we get the benefit of both worlds, but without the stress of having him in the chair. So something to think about. There's a workflow for everybody. But the more you do these and the faster you get, you do them same day. Okay. Now, what I love about this is we all want this big chain like this, but we don't really want a chain full arch. It's very rare that we get a full chain, because so many times our preparations based on the arch and the flare of the teeth are proclined or retroclined, and we have undercuts. Even if our preps have 6 degrees of taper, there are undercuts eventually as you go across the arch. So these undercuts become problems, because if I tell the lab to do a full arch, what happens is they have to have path of draw. And so they're just going to basically take it on a digital surveyor, and they're going to block out those areas. The problem is those blocked out areas, because your temp will seat, the blocked out areas are at the margin. And the benefit of these digital prototypes is we get to test the marginal integrity. We allow the tissue to heal to the margins. And so when we pop these off, when we do full arch, a lot of times they've got inflammation in those areas because it was an open margin. Okay. So don't do that unless you actually have draw, which is rare. In reality, you're going to get cases like this. So we're going to break it up into sextants. If I'm doing full arch, I do the anterior 6 and then the posterior quadrant or sextants there. If I'm doing the anterior 8, which is a lot of my cases, 8 to 10, then I'm usually keeping premolars, canines 1 unit, and incisors 1 unit, and then premolars, bicuspid, cuspids as a unit. And so this is great because then your lab is going to send it like this. And like I said, if you take anything away from this, do not ever split this down the middle on 8 and 9. I know you'll be tempted, but I promise you, they never look good. They always look weird. So that was the first 2 steps: digital imaging, digital design. The last step is our digital manufacturing. Oh my gosh, that's the best part because it's so much fun. So how do we do this? Well, once you have the design, you're on easy street. So you can either design this with digital press stereolithography. That's something like the Midas. My printer just went off behind me if you heard that. Or you can use a 3D printer, which uses resin. Either way, I'm going to use the same resin in my practice. I prefer denture tooth resin. Specifically, I love the Apex denture tooth resin. It's so easy to post-process and polish and all that. And so I'll use this, but the other reason I really like denture tooth resin is because now I have shades. I can create these shade tabs. This is a little shade jig thing that Wally Renee and the Mod Institute created. That's a free download. So I'll print these, and what I do is I've got my bleach shades, my B1s, my A's, my A2s, all the shades I normally use in my resins, and then I've got them polished and glazed so that I can do a shade match for the patient. And then I know predictably what I'm going to get. Once we have that, then it's time to print. Kind of. This is where people, if you're going to make a mistake in the manufacturing process, this is where we make our mistakes. It's in how we set up the printer. These printers these days, you guys, work so well. How it screws up is how we use it. So what happens is we see all these supports, and some of us get nervous because of the old days of cutting these things off. But these things tear off pretty easily. But the problem is the software that does this nesting or creates the supports is not autopilot yet. So you're going to have to trust but verify all of your supports. So when we start looking at this, we are very much under-supported. And what I mean by under-supported is every incisal edge needs to be supported by a minimum of 3 points. So you need the distal incisal edges as well as somewhere in the central. I like to try to get as many as I can, but on smaller teeth, you just need to ensure the incisal edges are intact with supports. Otherwise, you're going to get blunting. So we really want to change this in our software. And it's really easy to do regardless of what printer you have, but we want to make a nesting support structure or design more like this. And you'll get much better prints. And if you don't believe me, ask me how I know. This is the exact same design, exact same printer. The only thing that was changed were the support structures. Honestly, the upper one was how the software gave it to me originally. Luckily, we don't get that as much, but important step, don't skip that. Just be aware that if something doesn't fit, that's often what it is. The other reason things don't fit is when we get resin on the inside like this, because we'll flip upside down inside of this. We always see photos like, oh, this looks so beautiful. It doesn't look like that when it's coming out of the printer. It's an ooey gooey mess. And so we have to take this and wash them. And washing it with alcohol is the critical component to make sure there's no excess resin, because if there's excess resin, these things will not seat. It defeats the whole purpose. And the reason I love denture tooth resin is because I can put it in an automated washer and set it and forget it. If you use resins that are ceramic based or some of the nano hybrid materials, those often need to be hand washed by alcohol because otherwise it will degrade the resin. So those take time. I want less things that my team can screw up or that I can screw up. So that's why I like denture tooth resin. And then it's got to go into the correct cure box. If you're using denture tooth resin, you need to use a cure box that can properly post-process and cure these resins, because these are going to be in patients' mouths sometimes for many, many, many months, sometimes even permanently. So you want to have a biocompatible material, and the final step is truly curing that resin. Now, it won't come out like this. This is what we see photos like, oh, it looks awesome, but this isn't how it comes out. You're going to have supports. I always recommend get in the habit of never breaking off the supports till after you cure. I know they're zipper easy to remove, and the newer supports that are coming out with this that are like literally like a zipper, maybe we'll get there. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you break enough of these, you won't do it. So what I always do is I will always, I'll usually be able to print a model. You know, if you have two printers, you can print a model and that, so it makes it easier to process. But I'm going to use a disc wheel to remove the supports, because if you just tear these supports, sometimes it'll create a little divot, and these are on the incisal edges. So I don't want to change my final prototype. You know, for a lot of other things, I'll rip it off, but for these trial smiles and prototypes, I don't do that. So I'll use a disc, cut them off, and then we just use a little, this is a Meisinger, actually this is Brasseler. This is their temporary rubber diamond impregnated wheel. It works really good. But you remove the base of the supports. And then at this point, you have two options. You either can polish these things or you can paint them and glaze them. Polishing is super easy with the Dentistry tooth resin. You literally just, I will micro etch it usually with aluminum oxide, and then I'm literally taking a bristle wheel, then I'm going to take a buff polisher, and that's it. These things turn out shockingly smooth and polished. You can also glaze things depending on the colors. Sometimes you got to make things fancy, right? You got to do it. My associate, Tom loves to make things look amazing. He's much better at this than I am because he practices it more. But what you're going to do is you're basically just going to take a dap and dish brush and just brush on some glaze. And the glaze can be, Sprint Ray's got a glaze, GC Opti glaze is good. You can use flowable composite. You just need some glaze that you can put on there to make it shiny. Now, I do like for Temporaries glaze, because I'll just literally put it on like this. And when it's done, it's like, holy buckets. Like, it literally looks like ceramic. So it's just this amazing, amazing, amazing workflow.